People are always so curious of what we actually eat to stay in our grocery budget of $135 per person. And I love these videos that we've been doing on this series. This is actually meals number 13. We started this at the very beginning of 2025, and now we are at the end of June filming these videos, and then they go out every 2 weeks. So you can see recipe ideas that we're doing, but it's also a sneak peek of different aspects of our life that we don't normally show in other places. So you kind of can see a vlog of what's happening day to day in our lives and what's going on in these different seasons. If you're just meeting me, my name is 𝐂𝐎𝐍𝐒, and this is the 𝐋𝐈𝐍𝐿 Legacy. For years now, I have been teaching other families how to save money on groceries, and this all started because of my strawberries in a jar trick that ended up being a trend. But now I have 75 produce items that I teach about all the time that can last for weeks, so you can have zero produce waste. I go grocery shopping once every 3 to 4 weeks. So normally I'm trying to push it out to that 4-week mark, which is exactly today. So after we get done filming this video today, we are going to go to the grocery store and do my next grocery haul. But for these meals that I made, it marks in the grocery cycle between the 2nd and the 4th week since I went to the grocery store. So this video starts right on June 16th and it goes through the end of the month of June. And this one is called Meals 13. So if you're looking for the other ones, they're in the playlist in the description that start all the way back from January 2025. Now, true to 𝐂𝐒 form, this is a recipe that I just kind of threw together, but I need to try to make again so I can write down the recipe. So I don't have the recipe for this, but it was a creamy chicken with spinach dish. Next time I want to add some mushrooms to it. So I'm going to make sure to add the mushrooms on my grocery list, but you will see this come up again as I'm making it to write down the recipe so we can put it on the blog. This corn on the cob is over 2 weeks old. I made sure when I brought it home, I just trimmed off the silks and I put those in the crisper drawer. It's really important when you're at the store and you get excited about buying corn on the cob that you don't pull those husks back, because then it will start dehydrating a lot quicker. So the corn was over 2 weeks old. We did soak it in water for a few minutes before we put it on the grill. And I think it's just kind of fun to pull the husks back when I go to eat it and hold it like a handle. And this was a great night to eat dinner out on the deck and just enjoy the evening. We grilled up some steaks. These are the first steaks that we're eating out of our new meat order. And we already have the video up on the channel if you're interested in buying meat in bulk. So the same price that I get for our steaks is the same price that I buy for a hamburger, and we have 2 years of beef here at the house. I made these high protein strawberry shortcakes again this day so I could take pictures of it and write down the recipe, because I made it in the Meals 12 video and there were so many people asking about it. So there should be a video coming out on that very soon if it's not already on the channel. Being diabetic, I try to add as much protein as I can to anything, especially desserts, and it helps my glucose numbers not spike. It was actually a cooler day on this day, and I had pulled some pork chops out of the freezer. I just seared these. I had seasoned them with salt, pepper, and garlic, and I like ground mustard on my pork chops. And then I finished those off in the oven, and while those were cooking, I also added some asparagus to a tray, and I like putting just a little bit of balsamic vinegar and oil and lemon on that, and then I topped it off with some Parmesan cheese at the end. But this was a super easy dinner that only took a few minutes of actually standing at the stove, and then it finished off in the oven. Asparagus actually stays fresh for an entire month in the refrigerator, so normally I am using this towards the end of our grocery shopping cycle, and that way we have fresh green produce the whole entire time. I love having either applesauce or pears with pork chops. I think it pairs perfectly with that, and we had used some of our homemade canned pears that I had in some little tiny jars that we still had on our shelf. Those were actually ones that I canned a couple of years ago, and I'm trying to cycle cycle through the rest of them before we move, so we don't have to pack as many things. But if you're interested in learning how to can, we have an entire playlist on Canning 101 and what needs to be water bath and what needs to be pressured canned. And this is just a picture and a reminder, but my lavender is in full bloom and I want to pick up some extra lemons when I go to the grocery store because I love making lavender lemonade. This is just a quick little video of the breakfast that I made. I like to make breakfast ahead of time. Normally I am cooking these and putting them in the freezer so I can pull them out and rotate, but lately, since we are getting ready to move, I've just been making it like twice a week so I have enough for 3 or 4 days at a time. But I was just using some fresh produce that I had, some spinach and onions. I had some frozen ham that was left over from Easter that I had put in the freezer all chopped up, so I can pull that out for months and continue to use the leftover ham, which is perfect for a breakfast dish like this. And then after we had breakfast, then I just put the rest in glass containers and then we had it for the next couple days. We are in the middle of selling our house and there are tons of showings, which we never know when one is going to happen. So I had ended up pulling out something out of the freezer. It was defrosting in the sink and some water, and we had cleaned off all the counters. We were starting to pack up boxes. I was on the Homesteading Family podcast and the book orders coming in were like triple what we normally get. So there were a lot of books to box up and try to get them out in the mail. And then all of a sudden we had a showing in an hour. So it was kind of crazy here, trying to get everything tucked away, hide the dinner that I was starting to pull out, and then leave the house for the showing here at the house. And then we came back afterwards and we just warmed up that baked tortellini and had it for dinner. And I just want to share this picture. The next day we actually filled up the post office truck and they brought a second one to come and help with the pickup. We had so many book orders that we were able to pack up. So if you're interested in getting the Zero Waste Produce Guide, that is linked in the description, also with my grocery meal planner. And these are on a special bundle and there is a special discount code in the description. Now, if you're watching an older video and you see that we did have bags that were on sale for groceries, those are on hold now until we move, as we had to pack up the inventory and get our house show ready. So after we get moved and settled into the new house, then the bags will come back, but all summer long, the books and the planners are available. For the baked tortellini, it was still a little bit frozen when I pulled it out of the refrigerator because I had taken it from the water and put it in the refrigerator while we left for the showing. I just made sure when I reheated it in the oven, I put it on a tray and I put the glass dish on the tray, but I put it in the oven right when I turned the oven on to preheat. So it didn't go into a hot oven. It gradually warmed up in the oven, and that way you can reduce the risk of shattering your glass. So June 21st is our wedding anniversary and we went to the Cliff House for dinner. This is the exact same restaurant we went to 31 years ago for prom. So it's kind of fun to be able to go back there again. And we also had a rehearsal dinner there the night before our wedding. So it was just a really fun day. Of course, it was rainy for the first time ever on our wedding anniversary and the mountain wasn't out, but it has such a pretty view of the mountain on a nice day. So we knew we were going to be going over to Eastern Washington to celebrate a birthday with one of our family members, and we decided since we were doing that, we were going to go ahead and rent a U-Haul and get one of the trips of things over there, especially some bulky items like Mike's drill press and some of his larger woodworking tools that he has in there. But we were able to load up the U-Haul and take it over to Eastern Washington. And we lucked out because they weren't open on Sunday, so they gave us an extra day for free. So we were able to load up the U-Haul one day and then come home and eat dinner and then leave the next day to go head over to Eastern Washington. So for dinner, I just warmed up some chicken strips. We had some gyros that were in the freezer and I made chicken Caesar salad wraps, which was just really easy to throw together and it had literally no effort that I needed to put behind it, which was great after loading up the U-Haul. We decided to wait until 2 o'clock to head over the mountains just because we felt like that was the best time for traffic, that there wasn't as many campers and stuff on the road at that time. So we were purposely trying to wait until 2 o'clock, and all of a sudden I realized it was 1:53 and I hadn't packed anything for us to have for dinner. So I knew that if I didn't do something really quickly and right away, that we would want to stop and get takeout. And we have been trying so hard since the beginning of January not to get takeout and only go out to restaurants when it's a special occasion, so we can spend some of that extra money and other things that we want to do for the move and such. So I quickly whipped up a hoagie sandwich, and we had hoagie sandwiches. I had some chips. I grabbed some protein shakes because I always make sure to have those when I'm traveling, especially over the mountains because it's a 4-hour drive. And we had beef jerky and trail mix. I made sure to fill up our water bottles and then also grab some extra liquid IV. Again, it's like 100 degrees over there, so I wanted to make sure that we had snacks and everything we needed. And then we just had dinner on the way over there at a rest stop. And I'm normally pretty good about when we're leaving town, like I don't ever leave dishes in the sink. We always take out the garbage. I always make the bed, like all of those kind of things. But we had an open house happening and showings while we were out of town. So that was like a whole other level of making sure our house was totally pristine clean before we left, which is kind of ironic. Pristine Clean is the name of the housekeeping company that I owned for more than 15 years. So I was making sure everything was top notch. Again, we had lots of showings. We are still hoping and praying that we get the right offer on the house, because our offer on the new house is contingent on the sale of this one. So we're kind of in this limbo stage of showings and not knowing when we're moving, and it's making things a little bit difficult. We had a great time spending time with our family and celebrating our kiddo's birthday before we headed back home. I keep getting a lot of people that are asking how come we're moving. We're moving to be near our kiddos who now live in Eastern Washington. So that has always been our goal, was someday we would move to Eastern Washington, and now it's finally happening. When we got home from being out of town, I made sure to go check the freezers right away. Now it's been over 3 weeks since I've been to the grocery store, so there isn't a ton of things in my refrigerator right now, but I made sure to pull out bread, and we needed some butter out of the freezer. I also, when I was down there, saw that we still had some little tiny portions of squash and pumpkin in the freezer, and I knew I could do something with that. And I also pulled out an egg bake that I had in the freezer, which was perfect to have that next morning. And then I found some coconut curry that I had made, and so that was another meal to make that I only needed to make some rice for. And I pulled out a whole chicken that we had that night, and also some chuck roast. So that was kind of pulling out things out of the freezer that I knew I can make some easy meals and to get us through that last week of the month. That egg bake that I pulled out of the freezer, we just warmed that up straight from being frozen. So that frozen chicken, I just threw in the Instapot. I seasoned it really well and put some chicken stock in the bottom, and then I just let it cook in the Instapot for an hour, totally frozen. If you want to, when you pull it out, you can also put it under the broiler in the oven, and that will brown it up if you want it to look more brown, but it's completely cooked when you pull it out of the Instapot. We had some homemade canned carrots with this. Now that we're going into like harvest season and canning season again, I'm trying to use up the last of the canned items that we had on the shelf from the years previous. And with that pumpkin and squash, I ended up making some high protein muffins with that. And it's a basic recipe that I normally use to make sure that it has enough protein in it. But instead of using vanilla protein in it, I put chocolate protein and added a little bit of chocolate chips in it. So it seemed like dessert. It was great for breakfast, and we had those for the next few days. I like adding milestones to these videos because when I go back and watch them, it's kind of fun to see how much we have grown. And on this day, we actually hit 5 million views here on the channel. So this channel started exactly 3.5 years ago, and in January we started putting up 3 videos every single week, and we have continued that for the last 6 months, and it has been so fun to see how many people have joined the channel since we started putting up so many more videos, and how many lives we're touching and helping families save money on groceries. So I just took out some of the leftover chicken that was in the refrigerator. I added some pesto sauce also in the refrigerator, some sun-dried tomatoes, and then I had some mozzarella that was also in the refrigerator, and I originally was going to make a sandwich out of these, but then I decided to just skip the bread and just have it in a dish. So we ended up having pesto chicken. It was delicious. The picture didn't really turn out that great, but we enjoyed it a lot. But literally, I pulled this all together and it only took about 5 minutes to cook, and we were able to have dinner within minutes. I was out in the garden, watering the garden, and realized that our peas that I had started are growing like crazy and they need to be picked. So I was grabbing some of those while we were in the garden, and I still need to pick a whole bunch. But we also had an unexpected visitor while we were out there, and there was a deer in our neighbor's backyard. So I am hoping that it was just a one-time visitor and he doesn't start eating in our garden. But it was fun to see the deer in the yard. But I love the fact that I still went ahead and planted our garden, even though we're not hoping to be here all the way till the end of harvest time. But it's been fun to see the garden grow for the 22nd year before we leave. And it's also neat that our neighbors enjoy our garden so much and like to come over and see what's growing in there. And we are able to share things with them. So most of the produce items, when we are bringing them in and washing them, I normally say 2 minutes, and to set a timer. For peas and green beans, it's really important when you're washing them to only soak them for 1 minute, because the water will get inside the shells and it won't dry out again. So for peas and green beans, make sure it's just 1 minute. And yes, I do wash things even if I've homegrown them and they're not sprayed, because they're still dirty. There's still critters and bugs and stuff that get on them, and I want to make sure that they're clean. For dinner this night was that mango coconut curry that I had in the freezer. I just had to warm this up. It did have a ton of cauliflower rice in there already that I had snuck in there. So I did cook a little bit of brown rice, but Mike didn't even realize that most of what he was eating was the cauliflower rice that was already in the dish. So just a little way to be a little bit sneaky and to also reduce some of the carbs while still having a balanced meal. But this only took a few minutes to warm up, and then the rice in the rice cooker. So we had a really easy meal for another night. I made these chuck roast street tacos, which I think this recipe is going to actually go out on the newsletter. So make sure that you sign up for the newsletter. The link is in the description. But this had a variety of different spices in it. And then I also added some canned tomatoes and some orange juice to make a chuck roast turn into street tacos, which then I shredded. I just cooked those in the Instapot. So all I had to do was push a button, and an hour later, dinner was ready. And then with this, I did warm up some black beans that we had with that. I like adding a little bit of cilantro and lemon or lime juice and cumin to the black beans. And then we had a variety of different vegetables that we were able to add to it, which was kind of funny. We had some helpers here that were in high school, and she had never had an avocado or peppers before. So it was a whole new experience for her to have some of the produce items that we were having on our tacos. But we had some cabbage and onions and peppers and avocado. There was some cilantro. Again, I haven't been to the grocery store in a month at this point, and everything was fresh and perfect for dinner. And we just ended up having everybody serve themselves so they could make their own tacos. And knowing that we had unexpected company at dinner time, not when I had pulled out the meat earlier in the day, I just cut up a couple extra peppers, and then I realized I only had like 4 tortillas, which was fine. That was plenty for all of us, but I did have some leftover tortilla chips that they will stay fresh for about 2 months. So if anybody wanted anything extra, I didn't stress about it because they could always make some nachos. So Saturday we went over to finish taking the shelves out of the storage unit. And then we had an unexpected trip to the ER, which was actually Mike's second trip to the ER in a week because he's dealing with some kidney stones. So we ended up being at the ER for about 7 hours that day, which was just unexpected. And it was about 8 o'clock when we were leaving. We hadn't really ate very much all day, and we had grabbed some protein shakes as we were leaving to go to the ER, not knowing it was going to be so long. But it was about 8 o'clock before we were leaving, and he wanted to go to 𝐋𝐿''𝐻'𝐒 for dinner, which I didn't even care. And so we hit 𝐋𝐿''𝐻'𝐻'𝐒, which is in Tacoma. It's like a historic hamburger joint that people just love. And so we were able to go there and grab some dinner on the way home. So the next couple days are kind of a little bit unexpected of him just resting a lot as he's dealing with this. And it's also really warm here. So we don't have the AC turned on right now. And so it is warm in the house. And so the next day was just a really quiet day as he was resting. And we ended up using that leftover chuck roast, and I made taco salads for dinner, and it was just easy and he enjoyed it, and that's all that mattered. But I do love showing you that that was on June 29th, which is exactly 29 days since we went to the grocery store. So you can see that all the fresh produce that we're eating, even at the end of the grocery cycle, is still fresh and perfect, and we're able to use it all up. And today is June 30th, which is when we normally film videos. We're actually doing our July grocery shopping trip today after we get done with this video. So that video is going to go up within just a couple days. We try to get it up on that first week of the month so you can see it. And then this video goes out a few weeks later. So we try to put one of these videos up every 2 weeks, but they do take a lot of editing time because I stop and start them about 100 times as I'm checking my notes and remembering what pictures I took, so we can get all of the B-roll to match up to what I'm saying. So these videos go out every 2 weeks, and we're going to continue to do these videos throughout the rest of the year, as long as you're all enjoying them and they're inspiring you to cook at home a little bit more.